Okay, real quick on the practice guide here, vocab. Remember, you'll have a word bank, you'll have some of these. My goal is to have one word that you're not going to use, the rest of them you'll fill in the blanks. Write the words down, don't put some weird number system, don't draw lines and arrows or letter systems. Just write the words down and spell them correctly, you'll have the word bank off the side. Now remember, it could be, I should say, some of these words, and it could be some of the words I may have skipped, because it's completely random how I picked them. I just flipped through the chapter, picked a random yellow word on the page, that's what went on the test, and I did that for the practice test. So there could be double up, there could be some that aren't here that aren't on the test, because I just went through chapter 1, so flip through chapter 1, that's all I did. So if we covered it, it's probably on there. Alright, number 2, we did this one yesterday, this is where we started. On test day, I know these are really hard to see, right? Because, you know, that three-dimensional thing is really tough. I will make sure that on test day, the pictures will be up here, and we'll go through stuff. So we'll answer questions if you have any questions about the picture, if you can't necessarily see it. And I'll probably put it on like a loop, so the pictures will stay on the board, so it'll eventually come back up. So if you're like trying to compare your picture to the board, it'll be up here. It'll have a series of questions about the picture, so it'll be something that you've definitely seen in your homework. Okay? Alright, next. We went to number 3. We did measurements. It'll be something where the ruler is drawn for you. Like that. The ruler is drawn, and you have to like give me the measurement. I'm looking for accuracy. If it's in between a dot, like in between hash marks, because I know the book did that sometimes. If you're within one or two of them, you're fine. It's either one that you picked. You don't have to give me the half thing. Does anyone need help on how I did that one yesterday? Okay, because remember, you just count, put the number on the top where you finished. 4, we talked about this one yesterday. I did the top one. I told you you guys have to do the bottom one. You have to draw the picture where you put Y in between X and Z on a number, like on a stick. Y is in the middle. And then you can label the parts and you know which two to add to make the other one. And then you're just solving for, I guess, the letter C, or in your case, for letter B on the second one. Draw the picture. The people who get this one wrong refuse to draw the picture, and they don't want to set it up. Okay. 5. I believe we got here yesterday, correct?
Yeah.
We got to 5. Okay. And I think we did the top one. We did JL. Okay. Now, just to let you know, if you look on the board over here, so look at the board right behind you. Those formulas will be there. That's exactly what's going to be their test day. In fact, that's going to stay there through Monday, because Monday is your test. So, that you have every formula you need. You have all the distance formulas, you have all the midpoint formulas, and they're clearly labeled. So you know which one to use. Does that make sense? So on this one, number 5, you're using the distance formula. So, the distance formula there for a number line is you're going to subtract the two numbers and put them in an absolute value. So that's that one in red. So, JL, remember JL, this is how I pick it. I use the endpoints where J and L are sitting, and that's the numbers that I plug into that formula, where I subtract the two numbers, and that's the formula you see on the board over there. So that's the -7 minus the -2. The negative signs cancel, so you're going -7 plus 2, which is -5, and you take the absolute value of it, which is 5. Use the formula, because I've already went through homework and grade papers that were turned in yesterday, and you know, and the time before that for this assignment particularly, and I know for a fact there's a few people that count wrong. They count with their fingers and they're counting wrong. I don't know how you can count wrong when you're counting the spaces between the hash marks. These are what I'm counting. That's why there's 5. There's 5 blanks. I'm not counting, you know, J and then the space, and K. I'm not counting the hash marks, I'm counting the spaces between. Bless you.
Bless you. Thank you.
Okay, so that's how you find distance. Now, if it asks you to find midpoint, which is actually coming up, I believe that's number 7 that we're going to hit today. Am I right? Number 7 has midpoint. That's the other formula. Do you see the directions that it's clear? It's clear, like if it's asked for midpoint versus find the measure. I will, like on test day, I'll tell you, hey, you're finding distance here. I will say that out loud. So that way you know, okay, if that's what I'm marking, you can mark that on test day, you want distance, distance. So you know which ones you're going. Okay, are we good with number 5 though? Number 6, I believe we got to this one yesterday. I don't even know if we finished it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here it is, here's that one. The distance we're gonna remember is this one right here. This is the distance, find the distance between the pairs. It's that big monstrosity with the big radical sign. You're subtracting the x numbers and you're squaring it. You're subtracting the y numbers and you're squaring that, right? That's the formula. The x and y's are in alphabetical order. That's how I know which ones are x and y. X comes first, y comes second alphabetically. So the numbers I'm using are that -2 and the 4 for the x's. I don't care the order you put them in, but you have to subtract them. So I think yesterday I went 4 minus the -2. I just picked the two x's, put them in there randomly. Pick the y's, -3 and 0, -3 minus 0. It doesn't matter the order you put it, it's going to work out anyway. So 4 minus a -2, that's +2, that's 6 squared. -3 minus 0 is -3, and we're going to square that. And notice, when you have negatives, you have to leave them in parentheses with a square on the outside of it. Because if you don't put a parenthesis there, your calculator will tell you the wrong answer. If you square 6, you get 36, because it's 6 times 6. -3 times -3 is 9. Positive 9. Notice the negative sign cancels. And then when you add them together, you get 45. And you take the square root of it, which is like 6.7. That sounds right. And how I know what the decimal is going to be, the square root of 49 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49. It was just below that. So 6 point something made sense. Okay, do we feel comfortable distance? You have to be able to type that in your calculator or my calculator. Does everyone know how to type it in? You have to hit the little shift key or the second key. Go find the square root button, which is this one right here. It's a little square key. You hit it and then you type in the 45 and hit enter. It's basically, it'll look like this on your screen. Now, if you don't have one of my calculators and you're going to use your own, you better know how to type it in, because Monday I don't tell you how to type it in the calculator. That's something you need to know today or Monday morning, but not Monday during testing. Okay? You gotta know how to do it, especially if you have your own calculator there, bro. Okay, we go to number 6. Okay, now, I know that if you look past number 7, number 8, it never asks for midpoint, correct? It doesn't ask for midpoint on the coordinate plane. I'm going to go through a midpoint problem right now on this problem if number 7 is different. Because number 7 asks for midpoint on a number line, but if I put, instead of a number line, what if I do a coordinate plane, how can you find midpoint on it? So, because that could sit there, it's free for all. I'm just picking one of the midpoint problems. So if it asks for a midpoint, midpoint is like the dot in the middle, wherever that would be. So this is what you do to find distance, but midpoint is different. You can see the formula over there. It's right up the top, it's in blue. To find midpoint, you add the x's together, divide by 2, you add the y numbers together, and you divide by 2. And your answer, if you notice, is written as a coordinate. It's a dot. It's a point. So it's in parentheses with comma in between. It's a coordinate where the midpoint is. It's not just a digit like square root of 45 is. So on this problem, if this was my problem to find midpoint, right, I would add the x's. So that's the -2 and the 4. So -2 plus the 4, and I'm going to divide that number by 2. That's adding the x numbers together. Adding the y numbers together, that's the -3 and the 0. I divide by 2. The formula is right over there. You can't get that wrong. It's there. It's right there. Just look up. So that's -2 plus 4 is 2. And we're going to divide that by 2. -3 plus 0 is -3. And we're going to divide that by 2. So it looks like my answer is going to turn out to be, if I do this right, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and -3 divided by 2 is -1.5 on a calculator. That's the coordinate. That's what I'm looking for. That dot is right here. It's 1 over, 1.5 down. In fact, my arrow is pointing right at it. So 1 over, -1.5 down. Remember, the first number in the coordinates are right and left. The second numbers are up and down. Questions on how to find midpoints and what they are. That's if that problem number 7 is different. We got to get to number 7 today. We haven't even talked about that problem yet. Okay, are we good with, either or? Okay, moving on. Let's get to number 7 here. The 7 asks for a midpoint, but it's on a number line. Cursor, there it is. Okay, number 7 on a number line. And once you find the midpoint between 2 letters, I'm going to do the top one. You guys can do the bottom one, but I need to see both on your paper. Okay, so here's the top one, A to C. So A towards C. The midpoint is going to be in this ballpark, somewhere in that range. I can already kind of guesstimate where it's going to be. But to figure it out, the formula's on the board over there. To find midpoint, use on a number line. You add the two endpoints together. So if I'm doing A and C, my endpoints are 12 and 6. That's A and C. I'm going to add those two together and then divide by 2. That's how you find midpoint on a number line. It's just like the coordinate plane. You just use the endpoints. So negative 12 plus 6, that is what? Negative 6. And we divide by 2, and what do you get? Negative 3, and that should be right there. Which makes sense, because it is jumping by 3s. It's going 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. You know, it keeps going. So, we're good? Okay, you can do the second one by yourself, BD, you can figure out the midpoint there. Now, if it's a decimal, fine. You can have decimals. It can be in between things. So don't feel bad. It's like, oh, I'm getting like 2.5. Yeah, you could be in the half. You're dividing by 2. It could be that. Okay, questions on 6 or 7? I know I went through that really fast. Sorry. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to number 8 now. 8 is using this picture. Now, if your picture's really faded, remember on test day, I will always have the picture up here so you can see it. So here's number 8. Alright, there you go. There's number 8. Okay, the first one says name the vertex. So find angle 4, what's the vertex at angle 4?
Point U.
Point U, perfect. Good way to write that. Point U. That's the vertex at 4. You gotta write the word point. Don't put the little angle symbol in front. I want the point. It's a dot. That's a vertex. We good with that? Okay, number 2. Name the sides of angle 3. Sides of angle 3. George, what's one of them?
WX.
WX.
The arrow above X and the arrow above W and
Okay, good. Yep. Okay, that's one. What's the other one? So that, again, we're doing angle 3, so that was WX. What's the other wall?
XU.
XU. Okay, and where's the arrow on that one?
X going towards the U.
Going towards U, because that's the other wall. How I know that, that's what makes angle 3. You're just picking the walls. The vertex has to be one of the letters of the sides. And that's why the dot's above that letter, so we had to use X, and it's going towards the other walls. Now, if there was more letters down the road, so X towards U, and maybe there was like a T down the road, you could say XT instead of XU. It's fine, but you use 2 letters, put arrows above it. And yes, I am checking for the arrows. I'm checking that you use 2 letters. Okay, next one. What's another name for angle number 2? Wheeler, what do you got?
XYU.
Yeah, perfect. Angle XYU. That's angle number 2. It's this one right here. X to YU. The middle letter had to be the letter Y because that's where the vertex sits. The vertex for number 2 is Y, so that had to be the middle. And you can switch that around. UYX. That was good. Good work. All right. Another name for UXY. UXY. UXY.
Angle,
Say it again.
angle 1.
Angle 1. Good. Angle number 1. That's the best way to do it. Use the number, just the digit, right? You can be that smart aleck that wants to switch the letters around and say, oh, that's YXU. Clever, clever. You could do that. You get to switch the letters around. But I think angle 1 is probably the easier one. But again, why that's true, we know we're looking at an angle that's at X, because that's the middle letter, right? So it has to be one of these two. But they're saying UXY, right? That's this one. U to X to Y. So it's angle number 1. So you had a kind of a 50-50 chance to know which one it was. All right, name 2 adjacent angles. 2 angles that are side by side.
WXU.
WXU, okay, there's one. WXU and
UXY.
UXY. Angle UXY. Or same angles that you just told me. 3 and 1. Angles 3 and angle 1. They're adjacent to each other. Those are the 2 that she picked, right? WXU and UXY. You can use other letters. You could have used angle 2 and the one that's over here, which is UYZ. These are these two, angle 2 and UYZ. Those two are adjacent. Adjacent angles just are two angles that are side by side. That's all it is. So 3 and 1 would have been probably the easiest way to do it. I could ask, on this question, I could ask for vertical angles. On this one it's kind of hard because I don't have enough letters. I could ask for complementary angles. I could ask for linear pairs, supplementary. I could ask for just name an acute angle or a right angle, but the pictures will allow you to do that. So I'm going to give you a picture where you can actually answer questions with it. Is there any questions with any of those that I've said that you're not quite familiar with, like vertical, linear pair, supplementary, complementary, obtuse, vertical? Is there any there that you're not comfortable with that you want to see an example of? Please.
Vertical.
Vertical. Okay, let's talk about a vertical. Vertical is anytime you're going like the little funnel system straight across from each other. So like angle 2 and the one that's straight across from it. So I'll put another letter up here so we can actually do this. Let's call this S. I haven't used the S letter yet. So vertical would be like angle 2 and angle SYZ. They're straight across from each other. They have to be straight lines that cross. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you cannot tell me that a vertical angle would be angle number 1 and this angle over here. That doesn't work. The reason why, when you go across, do these even look like the same angle? That's not vertical. They have to be straight lines crossing. So really 2 and then 1 across from it would have been good. Or this angle here and this angle could have been vertical. They're just straight across from each other. Okay, that last one I'm highlighting there, SYX. This is SY to X and ZYU. These are obtuse, they're big. But they're still vertical, they're straight across from each other. Okay, that was good, that helped you out. Okay, another one that I saw another hand. Does anybody else have another hand that wants a different term like vertical, linear pair, supplementary, complementary, obtuse, right? Any of those that you're not comfortable with? Okay, that's good. Maybe I answer the question with the vertical. Okay, good. It'll be just a picture, something you've definitely seen before. So, okay, let's go on. Let's move on to, what am I, number 9 now? I think 9's the algebra problem. What, everyone's waiting for you. Have a question?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go to number 9. Number 9. Okay, now you did these in the last assignment. I believe this is what, the page 50 stuff? There's a couple of these on there where you have to solve for an X, solve for Y, you have to solve for both. And they just give you a picture, and it's kind of a free-for-all, right? It's just like, here's a picture, solve for X and Y. Okay. You have to use that idea of vertical. You have to use the idea of things are supplementary because they make a straight line, they add up to be 180, that type of thing. What was the one property we talked about last, or I guess earlier this week and last week? What's something special about vertical angles?
The one across from is the same.
They're exactly the same, right? They're equal, they're congruent to each other. So yeah, you're right. So like on this picture, this angle and this angle are equal. That's vertical. So if that helps you, in fact that does help us here because the ones that are vertical to each other, the ones I've highlighted there, they're equal, they have the same letter. Perfect, set them equal to each other because vertical are equal. So 2y plus 6 equals the 8y minus 102. You can set them equal to each other and solve for y using algebra 1. Maybe that didn't work for your problems on page 50, because maybe the ones that are vertical across, they have different letters. Like one has an X, one has a Y, so you don't want to do that. If they're the same letter, yeah, set them equal. Maybe the ones that are next to each other have the same letters. Like this, maybe this was a Y here. Well, then you could add these two together to make 180, because it makes a straight line. Well, we don't have that yet. I'm going to solve for Y though. Let's solve for Y. How would you guys attempt to solve this? Which direction we go?
Subtract 2y.
Okay, so we're going to bring the 2y over. So we're going to subtract the 2y across to this side, okay? We'll add the 102 over here. So we're going to add 102, subtract, okay. So if we subtract the 2y from this side, we're going to add the 102 to this side. So I'm just kind of moving, that's how I see it. I move things around my head. And again, when you move them across equal sign, that's when they switch. If they didn't move across equal sign, you don't switch their sign. But at this point, I have 108. I have a 6y over here. I might actually subtract and then divide by 6 over. And you get something like 1, that's a 4, is that 18?
18.
Okay. Questions at all about how we did that? Now, I'm not done yet. I found y. I have to find x now. The problem is with x is like, what most people do, they look at this picture and go, I don't have something across from me. Yeah, you don't need the thing across from it. You don't need the vertical, right? Because if I plug the y back in, so if I took my y, plugged it back into either one of these two, because I have the y now, let's plug that 18 up here. So 8 times 18 minus the 102, right? I'm going to plug the 18 back in. I'd like to know the angle that's next to it. So 8 times 18, that's a 4, carry a 6, it's 144. 144. We're going to subtract 102, and I get 42. So this angle here is 42, and I take 100. So this angle is 42 degrees. So that means the one across me is 42. Well, why that's important? Why did I plug the 18 back in to find that it was 44 there? Well, because what do these two have to add up to be?
180.
Yeah, these two have to add up to be 180. So 3x plus the 42 now has to make 180. They're making what they call a linear pair or supplementary. Two angles that are side by side that make 180. So that's why I plug the 18 back in, because now I can find the angles that are next to each other. So then you can subtract this over and what is that? 138?
Mhm.
And then divide by 3 and you get 4, that's a 146.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Questions at all about how to find x and y? I'm looking for both. You can't just solve for one. You have to solve for both. Was there a hand raised over here? Wheeler, did you have a question at all? All right. Questions, comments about those? I think that was one of the problems from page 50, I think. I just picked one. I'm the same thing. I'm on the test, I just pick a different picture. That's all I do. It's always a homework problem. That's what I always assign. That's what's on the test. I just pick homework problems. Something you've seen before. Okay, now the last ones, 10 and 11. These are things you have not done before because they're based on the last notes we took yesterday and Tuesday. Those videos are online. I made sure of it last night, that all the videos were online again. So you can go back and watch all those films about all the PowerPoints we did. And I even have the PowerPoints on the website as well, so if you want to go look at them. So, let's talk about problems 10 and 11. This is testing your vocab knowledge. And again, you don't have a word bank here. So I'm going to zoom in here. So if you read the instructions, it wants you to name the polygon, the specific name of what that polygon is. So that's triangle all the way through dodecagon. Once you know it, because it's by its number of walls, right? That's how we name them. Then, if you keep reading, it wants you to classify it as convex or concave. So that's if it has a dent, it's concave. If it doesn't, it's convex. And then tell me if it's regular or irregular. A lot of problems are always irregular. What I mean by that, regular is if all the walls match and all the angles match. On this picture, are all the angles marked on that picture number 10?
Yes.
Are the angles marked? No, the walls are, right? The walls are, that's equilateral, not equiangular. Well, since the angles are not marked here, it's irregular automatically. It's irregular. The reason why, to be regular, it has to be equilateral and equiangular, both at the same time. Everything has to be marked, the angles and walls. So it's automatically irregular. So that it's the easiest. A lot of pictures are irregular. You're not going to have all the walls and all the angles marked in a lot of pictures. So just look at it. It should be a quick thing for that. Now, is this convex or concave? Does it have a dent? Does it have like a dent or cavity to it? Yes, so it's concave. This is concave. because it does have a dent. Actually, the dent's right there. It dented in, has a cavity. So it's concave. And the last part here is to figure out what is the name of this object. Just count the walls. What do we have?
Heptagon.
Is it a heptagon? Seven-sided? Septagon, heptagon, they're all the same. Okay? So it's a heptagon or a septagon, they're the same thing. I'll accept both answers because they're equal in my mind. In fact, your Chromebook just autocorrects one to the other. All right, but again, the reason why, you can count the walls. 1, 2, 3, that's a 4, that's a 5, 6, and a 7. Yeah, so there's 7 sided. In fact, what you just saw me do there where I count the walls, I do that on my paper. Like when you see my practice guide and my test, I actually have the numbers actually written on the page. And you actually can see me counting. Because if I don't count, I lose track, I don't know where I started. And I'm like, God, how many walls was it? I gotta start over again. I just number. I don't have to recount again. Okay, you have to do number 11 by yourself. So you gotta figure out if it's irregular or regular. I think that's pretty easy to figure out. Convex or concave, that's pretty easy. And then you gotta figure out how many walls it has. So there's 3 answers I'm looking for each of these. So you can see my 3 answers. The name, concave, convex, regular or irregular for each picture. The problem is you will not have the word bank in front of you. So you really have to know all your words from triangle, quadrilateral, pentagon, hexagon, octagon, nonagon, decagon, hendecagon, and dodecagon. So you gotta know your names. Okay, questions, comments about the last problem? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, test is Monday. You get 1 day to work on it. It's like we test Monday, Tuesday, hopefully I hand them back to you. That's how it works. Okay, it's not one of those things like, I didn't get it done today. No, that's fine, I grade it. And you can take a retake. So, you gotta give yourself the right amount of timing. So you can't waste a lot of time on that top vocab part. You gotta like really crank out the answers. Okay, if you're done with your practice guide, you can turn it in, or you can keep it until Monday. This piece of paper, remember, this is due Monday. You have to turn this in. Does everyone hear me?
Yeah.
This is turned in. I graded this. We did it in class. I give you points for this. We just did it. Everything's filled out. You can even go back and watch all the videos of me doing it again, so you could get all the answers filled out. Okay? All right. I'll answer questions here in a second. I'll get to your question here in a second. But test is Monday. You can use a calculator, but no notes, nothing. This thing will be turned in on test day. Homework, if you didn't turn it in yesterday, maybe you're gone. It's page 50. All good stuff. Question? Which one? Okay, we'll go through number 4. Okay? We stop the camera here. We'll back. Okay. So Asia, let's do problem number, is that 4? Okay, let's scroll. I'll do the first one. So you can see. Oh, what's that? What's that? Yes. Alright. Okay, number 4, correct? That one, alright. Let's do the top one. So now if you read the directions, it says that y is in between x and z. That's telling you how to draw. So this part right here is kind of my go-to, so I know how to draw. So y is in the middle. So here's x, here's z, x and z, right? And y is somewhere in the center, somewhere. I don't know where. Now what I'm going to do is for my top, I'm doing the top one. I'm going to plug these values on that picture. So xy is 11, that goes there. That sticks 11 in length. YZ is a 4C, so that one's 4C. And the whole thing, x towards z, is an 83. Okay, so now, what are the 2 small parts of the picture? What are the 2 small pieces? And the 4C. Those are the parts you're going to add together. That's why I always label the picture, so you know which 2 are the small parts. So, The 4C and the 11, I don't care the order you put those, you're gonna add those together, and that will equal the big piece. And then you just solve. Okay, so now once we solve, okay, you do it, subtract this over, blah, 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 that's 72. You divide by 4, you get, I think it's 18. Let's see.
Wait, why'd you say?
So 1, 3, okay, 18. You have to plug it back in, because the question asks for find the value of the variable and this thing. So that they want you to actually find what YZ is. YZ is this stick, so you have to plug the 18 we just found back in. So 4 times 18. Well, that means YZ, I took 4 times 18, is now 72. That's what you have to do. Okay, you all do this one by yourself, same thing. The big thing I want to warn you of on this number 4, if you guys were paying attention at all to that, I warned you yesterday when we were doing this, or I guess yesterday when we did this problem, that I could give you the letters out of order. You have to really read the directions, because if I start using A's, B's, and C's, what if I put A in the middle between B and C? That could really mess with people, because now it's out of order. So you have to draw the pictures on these. The people who get it right will draw the picture. And label it. Yeah, so there you go. That was a good question.
Sure.